is dangerous.
Bad feeling about this.
You don't seem to understand something.
The thing that I like most about being a dad is that I see that I'm about to impact the world. Yup. It's your boy Humble Dad back with another edition of Humble Dad Podcast, episode 166. We're doing it big today. We're going to be talking about the women. I'm sure some people will be triggered by that. But however, we're going to talk about it from a perspective that hopefully can be helpful, I would say. So this got me thinking, just the things that are going on in the world of the United States and kind of the condition of marriage and relationships. Some of the things that I've heard or seen or read, encountered, has kind of gotten me to this particular question, right? There was a situation that transpired with me at a place that I visit frequently. And I was having a conversation with a particular lady. She had asked me a question, and I began to answer that question. She didn't necessarily disagree. She disagreed with my answer, but another lady decided to chime in and began to disagree with me, but she began to yell at me. And I was like, I don't understand why you have to yell. And she was like, well, I don't like what you're saying, basically. And I said, well, because you're yelling doesn't make you right. And so what I found myself understanding at that moment is that women believe that they can just yell at dudes and get away with it. And because I respect women and people, and I don't want to have to put no hands on anybody, and then that causes my character to be questioned. So I let it go. But it got me to thinking, what if women would change? What if they would see themselves in the light of how God sees them? How would they change, or what needs to be changed, or how would the world be different? And that's what we're going to talk about, as well as some of these popular ladies that are doing all types of things for the bag. You have Megan the Stallion. She's twerking, and then she's made it a challenge so that other women would do the same, and some of them have taken that challenge. But lots of other things. So we're going to get it started. The first question on the docket is, what podcast do you recommend listening to? What podcast do you recommend listening to? And we're going to start with my homie, Lost in Translation. What's going on, sir?
How are you today, sir?
I'm chilling, man. How are you?
I'm well, sir.
That's good. What you got?
The podcast that I recommend is Humble Dad Podcast. Why? Because I said so.
Yeah,
that's right, man. You always fair and balanced, man. That's why I appreciate you, man, because you make people think and you stretch people's thought process. So that's the reason why I recommend your podcast, sir.
That's what's up. I appreciate you, man. You being consistent. I appreciate that for sure. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to welcome to the stage none other than Country Grammar herself.
Ooh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm on.
Ash, are you not from the country?
Mind your business. I'm trying to leave it alone. I'm trying to. I'm lying.
What you got?
Of course, I recommend us because we always interact and it's very delightful, educational, and we're gonna trigger you because you got some unhealed emotional issues, just like all of us. And I also like Cruise Season. I like them a lot. I started out watching them when I'm on my walks, just hearing what they say, their ideals on how women behave, how men behave, or whatever is popping for that week, whatever the topic is of the week.
That's what's up. Shout out to Cruise Season. Trill, he's been on the show quite a few times. Me and him, we dialogue every now and then. As a matter of fact, he was one of my first interviews from what King Talk about him being a dad. That was pretty dope show for sure. Appreciate you for being here as usual. Hey, let's welcome to the stage. It's me. I'm doing good. You?
Good. Am I pixelating still?
No, not as much. No.
Yes. Okay. All right. So the podcast that I recommend, of course, is Humble Dad. But I do have another one that I like to watch too.
Yeah.
And Tony Gaskin. Because actually y'all kind of remind me of each other. Except for Tony likes to snap on people and you keep it very humble. So Tony calls it righteous indignation, but I think sometimes he just be yelling.
Yes.
So.
Listen, if we're in person, then it's different. Like you'll get a different vibe from me as it relates to if I'm having to communicate with a dude, then it's definitely more aggressive.
Okay.
If it's with a woman, then I gotta figure out who the woman it is that I'm talking to, right? Because some women can take, a strong conversation, but most can't. So you really kind of gotta figure out the balance. So that's what I try to do. That's what's up. Hey, I appreciate you for being here, being consistent with us. Hey, let's get into it. Hey, we got Give Me a Second in the building. You doing all right, bro?
Happy to see y'all. Of course, I mean, I just want to third everybody and say Humble Dad. And I say that, listen, no gas though, for real.
The reason for the question, y'all.
Let me really go backwards though, because so when you invited me onto your podcast for the first time, I listened to some of the shorts and I was like, I don't really know. But like when you take time to go back and watch every episode and look at every topic, man, there's some stuff, man. Like I ain't gonna lie, like you're undiscovered talent. You're undiscovered, ideologies and methodologies and stuff like that. And so the only other podcast that I would, recommend folks to, other than Give Me a Second podcast, would be The Basement with Tim Ross. And I love what he's doing because he's a guy that's not using what he's not selling church to fund what he's doing. You know what I mean? He thinks how he thinks, he feels how he feels. He doesn't sell hope. He gives you, facts, straight, no chaser. And it's on the premise of just him standing on his square, and he's not trying to give anybody any false prophecies or anything like that, man. He's just giving everybody straight facts. So The Basement.
Oh yeah, that's what's up, man. Shout out to Tim Ross. What's crazy about that is that I attend the church. Me and my family, we attend the church that he used to be the pastor at.
Yeah.
Right. And
Embassy City.
Yeah, Embassy City. And we was there in the transition. So we got to hear him preach. But then at the same time, he was talking about that he was stepping down to go do what he's doing now, right? And what's crazy is that our new pastor, his name is Dr. Tim Rivers.
Yep.
So they got the
got
the same initials, right? And then their wives have the same initials as well. Yeah. So Dr. Rivers, he does a phenomenal job in bringing the word. He's a I guess I would say how he puts his messages together is that he makes it very relevant to where you are right now, which is pretty dope. And so I would say definitely recommend The Basement because they talk about things from a biblical perspective in real time. I would say that. Yeah, that's what I would say for sure. And then I would also recommend Lost in Translation. I mean, he's all over the place, 100%. And on his podcast, he has several different individuals that I would say mature individuals that converse about life and whatever is entailed in that. And they always they don't always agree, but they are able to communicate effectively. And then I recommend go following Ash because she always up to something, whether she's at the bus stop or if she's just chilling at the crib. Like if you go check out her Instagram, there's always something. I would say as a treat to anybody that goes by. Me and her go back. It got to be 20 years. something like that.
Very, very much so. I think a little bit more than that if you really want to put a little
Yeah.
time on. Put
Dang,
that time season on that's
it's 20. It may be like 23.
yeah,
23.
it's been a long time.
That's crazy. That's what's up. So check her out. And then Miss Jamie, she interviews women and men, but the one that I enjoy that I don't think that people are in the space that are doing is interviewing married women and asking them what did they learn or what did they not learn or what was not accessible to them before they got married. I think that's a phenomenal thought process, and I hope she continues that and drop more shorts. You bugging. Okay, you need to drop at least 3 to 5 a day. No, I'm not holding up on nothing. I'm telling you what it is. I'm telling you what it is. As Robert in lots of translations, the more you drop, the more people see your face and see what your content about. That's how it changes. I thought differently before, and then I started doing what they told me to do, and things were different. You know what I'm saying? And people began to come to y'all stuff because of.
Okay. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna do it. I got you.
Yeah, don't listen, do it.
No, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then for sure. And then give me a second podcast. Him and his fiance, they have real man. The conversations that y'all have are impactful because it sounds like it's scripted, but you can hear that it's coming from a genuine place of experience. Does that make sense? It's like you have literally thought about what you wanted to say, and you say it very eloquently so that the listener is able to receive exactly how you're saying it. And you can't be like,
I think the biggest thing that we try to do is when we're communicating, we have to be intentional to not bleed on people that didn't cut us. And if you're listening, I can't never tell the lens in which you're listening in. I don't know if you're listening out of your survival, if you're listening out of your trauma, if you're listening out of your pain. I don't know how close to Christ you are. I don't know how far away. I don't know what your proximity is to anything. And so the part of it that's thought about, should I say, is the part that, I just don't want to be the thing that pushes anyone to the left or to the right. Everything that I communicate, I want it to be straight. I want it to be solid. And anybody that, the one thing they always say is, they always ask me, what church do I go to? Because there's always a part of it that just touches the word in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, man. And all things, kind of like Tim Ross, even if I'm speaking my truth, I still want you to see God and what it is that I'm talking about. So,
yeah, I think that's the good part about most places that I listen to as well. So, and shout out to Sir Hale. Hey, Sir Hale hasn't been on in a minute, but his podcast is dope. I definitely listen to Crew Season. Let's Talk every now and then for sure. I wish Chicago Rilla was doing something because his content that he had before was good. Ricky Williams is solid. I remember the time where he had women calling in to communicate to them. They would ask him questions about what's wrong with their situation. And so he would come from a really dope position as well. So anybody that we have on, go check out the previous podcast. Anybody that I have on, I would say is pretty solid. You may not agree with everything that they say, but you can see what they're trying to get you to, right? Even if there's something that's different than what you're used to. Shout out to Ebony. Shout out to Naraya. And I got to get my homie Dwayne up here. So we're going to start with this question. Well, we're going to start with a video real quick. Okay, start with a video. See what you think about this. Here we go.
My husband told me that I cannot buy something that I really wanted to buy. He said no. And then he changed his mind and said that I can go ahead and buy it, but he's not going to buy the thing that he was going to get tomorrow. But I wanted both of them. I wanted A and B. And he said, we got to pick one. So he's picking the one that I want. And instead, I could pitch a little attitude about it, which I was for like 10 minutes. I was walking around with an attitude. But I can see what he was trying to do. So I'm going to go apologize for having an attitude and thank him for being selfless. Because he's making a sacrifice. I should be grateful that he's making a sacrifice, giving up something that he needs so that I can have what I want.
right. I don't have no question. I just want to hear your response and your reaction to what you heard from that particular clip. And just for this segment, I mean, whoever wants to go can go.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Okay, Ash, go ahead. Tell me why you don't like it.
No, because you're gonna apologize to your man for not being selfish, whatever, but was it really the thing that you wanted? Did you really, was it like a want that you can be without, or is it something that you need indefinitely, to go to work or something like that? Because see, that's my problem. That is one of my big problems with dating, and no lie, because if it's something I want, I'm gonna put the work in to go get it. But I understand you need to ask your partner, make sure it's financially stable, make sure it ain't, messing up with y'all finances. But my thing is I don't like her attitude, because I feel like if you're trying to buy something that's causing an argument, maybe you need to postpone it. You get what I'm saying? This for y'all that's in a relationship, because I feel like if it's something like, let's just say, like my birthday gifts, I spend a little money on that because it's my birthday gift, because that's probably gonna be the only thing that I buy for myself right then. But if I feel like that's gonna cause an argument versus something, let's say you may need to get something done in your car that's probably about the same amount, we're gonna go ahead and fix that car because my car may need to go to the shop. You get what I'm saying? And just say it's something I didn't take care of, and everybody know that's a lie. But just say it was something I neglected, and my car breaks down. But now we have to rely on your car. You get what I'm saying? It's like something to me sound like where she could have just shut up and just let it go instead of having to go back to apologize.
Yeah, let me jump in on that. Like, there's one thing I tell my lady all the time is how you think is always valuable, but it ain't always relevant. And sometimes there's conversations, it's just a complete waste of my time. My comment ain't long. It's just that conversation could have been avoided. It could have been avoided because at the end of the day, I understand that we have two different visions as it relates to family construct and relationship. I understand that my responsibilities may go a little bit deeper or further, and or I shouldn't even say deeper or further. They just go in different directions, right? But that's a conversation where he already had it within his own mind. I have to be worried about tomorrow, and I need you to walk in the blessing that you only got to worry about today, and quit talking to me about something that's trivial. Like, it's two things on the plate. I said pick one. What we talking about? And another thing I like to say in conversations is, how do we get to a yes? Because I love the fact that, based on what we heard in the video, he never said completely no. He found a way to a yes. He found a way to a compromise. And so I think a lot of times when it comes to like responsibility, we as men, we come out of the womb having to figure out logistically, okay, what can we handle? When I was in school, warrant officer school, one of the things they taught us was you have to figure out how much you can handle and not fail. So if you get 10 tasks, right? Which 5 of these tasks is going to cause the mission to not happen? And which 5 of these tasks do you have to complete? You know what I mean? And just being kind of honest, because we thought, there was men in the class, women in the class. There were statistically, men were doing more. They were being more successful because they figured that out sooner than ladies. There were ladies in the class that tried to do all the tasks. They tried to spread themselves thin across all 10 tasks and never accomplished anything. Then you had the men that were in the class that took heed to the fact that we can't do everything, but we can do something, and we can do something that's going to move the ball closer to the goalpost. And so, just like I said, what I heard in that, man, is it was a conversation that was irrelevant, an apology that was irrelevant, and it could possibly lead to a purchase that's irrelevant. But be glad that he compromised with you. You know what I'm saying?
Who else wants to speak on it? Jamie, did you? Okay, Laus, go ahead.
You know what? I appreciate the fact that she was aware of her behavior.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. Most times, most women's default nature is to manipulate, especially when they want to get what they want to get, because sometimes they're not physical enough to force us to do anything. So sometimes women use their feminine wiles or their guile to get what they want. What I appreciated about her was that she recognized what she did and was wrong. and apologize before he says something. Do you know how incredibly rare that is for a woman to admit that she was wrong and you didn't have to say anything? You know what I mean? I can see why he would compromise, because she admitted that she was wrong. I'm the type of person, if you can admit what you're wrong, I'm going to give you some points because you're aware of what you did. And since you're aware of what you did, you know what? I'll meet you halfway. To me, that's fair. That's how I look at it. So I appreciate the fact that she was aware of her situation and she still gave in to her man and said, hey, look, you know, I apologize for, you know, using my words and my ways to try to get my way, because that's not mature. And if we can get more people to be aware of themselves and to be more mature, we'll have way better relationships. So I'll give her an A for effort on that one.
That's what's up, Jamie.
Can I respond to Lost in Translation real quick?
Oh, sure.
So and so I love everything you said. I agree with everything you said. So for the conversation to be, you know, constructive, you know, at some point, you know, there's a part of me, because we don't have enough context with the video, right, is, you know, like, how many times do you apologize though? Because how do we know if this is not a, you know, a repeated behavior? How do we know that the apology is connected to the fact that at this point in life, he's just ignoring her because he realizes, again, everything you think is valuable, it ain't always relevant. And so I don't want to have a conversation where they hear that perspective specifically, like, because we don't know when people chimed in and they think, you know what, I get to manipulate up to a certain point, and as long as I apologize, I'm still good. At this point in my life, I'm not giving out A's for effort in my 30s and in my 40s, because you know exactly what you're doing. You're pushing the needle as far as you can possibly go until you don't get a response from me, until you don't get a reaction from me. And so me pushing you didn't get a reaction, but now my apology might. And so it's still a manipulation tactic. It's still a way to still, in some sort of way, get what I want, when you could have just had the dexterity and the maturity up front to understand, again, that your thoughts are valuable, but they're not always relevant. And that goes for both genders. That's all I want to.
That's a dope take. James, what you got?
My thoughts are that she was wrong. So I'm gonna give an example. I would handle the money. So he would give me money and there would be things that I want. I like shimmer things, you know what I'm saying? Or there were some new glasses that I know I needed, but I also know that there was something that he needed. I'm just gonna tell you how I work this, okay? Because I just talked about this the other day. So I would pay the bills first, and then I would say, okay, if a box comes in the mail and it's just for me, he's probably gonna have an attitude. But if I'm able to find a deal and purchase the thing that he needs, and I can get this, then when both boxes come, we'll both be happy. And so that's what would happen. He would be like, there's a box at the door. And I'd be like, I think that that's your box. Thankfully it was, right? And then the next day, my glasses would come in the mail, you know what I'm saying? And I'd be like, oh, see, I got new glasses and I could see you better, right? I'm just giving you an example because but if I wasn't going to be able to get him what he needs, you know, along with what I actually wanted, which wasn't really a need, then I wouldn't do it. And so I don't, because I didn't want to apologize for anything later. And I didn't want him to feel stressed out about something that wasn't necessary. So I don't agree with it, because I think give me a second. Robert said it was just something that's unnecessary. And then I don't want him to say yes. And then because he said, you can get what you want. And I would have sat there all day or all night after he said that. Like, I don't even want it. Like, I don't want it because I don't want you to feel resentful. I don't want you to be like, you know, I don't want that type of energy. Like, I would apologize and said, I'm not getting it either. Like, we just not getting nothing. We're not getting nothing because I was wrong. So I don't agree, because I think she still got it, which I don't know, but it seemed to me like she still got it, and that still wasn't fair at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know y'all only getting part of it, because I did respond to her, and I'll tell you in a minute what I said to her. Go ahead, Dwayne. Did you get to see the little video? Bro, you had 2 weeks running where you was off this mute button. Listen, I think I should just listen. I need to get like an AI to just go through all the videos of how many times that you missed the mute button. and we could just
Hey.
have a compilation that might go viral.
Hey, I'm watching out for y'all. All right, I got these kids hollering in the background. Right, I got double mute gang. Okay,
Don't talk though. You start
double
talking.
mute gang.
Did you see the video?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh man, well, you know, Robert, I like what you said about not saying no, but they both did say no. Both of them said no. Both of them said no to themselves. So kudos to that young lady because she realized that she had a moment, right? And come on now, as guys, we have moments too. But being able to recognize that moment, right? And then be able to then extract the most out of it. And the way to do that is when you know you're wrong, admit you're wrong, right? So she said, I got to go back in there and apologize. So I take value in the time that she took to be like, you know what? Man, he just changed my whole mute. So Jamie, you were sitting there. I don't even want them. He changed that girl's whole appetite. she said, okay, you know what? He done switched it up on me, which is good because that's what kindness does, right? Because if he would have went the other route and said like straight up, Robert, you're right. He didn't say no to her, but he did say no to himself. If he would have said no to her, boy, that's the gas on the fire.
Wow.
Both ways. Both of them would have been at each other. But because both of them said no to themselves, and she realized that she had a moment, because guess what? She'd have been stomping around in that attitude, and all that attitude is manipulation. Oh, you're just trying to show you mad. You're putting on a show to show you mad. But we could do it too as guys, right? But in that, it's like, all right, cool. He came up with a solution. All right. One of us gonna have to get it. You can get it if you want. And for me, that just one time, if it would have been a repeat, if she's a repeat offender, cool. That's on him. But I don't think it would be so. You got it. And then all it took is one. I'll take one apology. Like Law said, you apologize to me. Oh man. All right, cool. Slate clean. Like the etch and sketch, whatever you don't scribble, scrabble, just shake it up. And we gone back to the next one. All right. So
That's hilarious. Hey, listen, when I saw it, I said, okay, let me process this real quick because I follow her. I can't remember her name. I have to get it, but I follow her her content just because she says some very valuable things as it relates to being a wife. And so I'm interested in hearing those that are wives, how they decide to provide their content. And so in this particular one, though, I said to her, do you believe that you got it because you threw a tantrum? Right? Because she said she was walking around with an attitude. That's her own statement that she made. And you can't tell me that husband didn't know that she had an attitude. Right. And so us as husbands sometimes find that we want to compromise because we don't want the attitude. Right. And we're sometimes we're uncomfortable in making the uncomfortable decision, which is a no. Or we got to do what I'm wanting to do first, and then we can get yours later. Right. But it can't be. She's saying that she wanted both, and he's saying no, we can't do both. We got to choose one or the other. I would say that he gave her the power to choose, and she still chose herself. Whether she was pouting, and she said that she wasn't pouting. That's what she said. She wasn't throwing a tantrum when she responded back to me. However, that's her defending herself, but she actually said that she was throwing a tantrum. She was being upset, and that would mean that you're throwing a tantrum because you're pouting around the house. If there's a no and you disagree with it and you don't like it, then you can accept that no and say, okay, well, maybe next time. There's no reason to mope around the house, right? Because mature people don't do that. In that situation, she was being immature. Most of the time that I hear her talking, she's giving a very solid answer. And so for her to go and apologize, I don't understand what what she would be apologizing for. Now, if she was to say, well, I'm apologizing because I threw a tantrum, well, then or she got upset, then that's still not good. So you got upset because I said no, and we're going to do what I want to do. You see what I'm saying? So I don't. To me, I think that she made the video thinking she did something good and something righteous, right? And so what I'm thinking is, no, if you were being righteous, I would say that you would have chose what he wanted to do, because that's giving it back to him, knowing that he was willing to give up his own item. Now the item was for their business, just so you know. Whatever the item was, she didn't say what the item was, but she said the item was for their business. I don't know what their business is. However, he was saying that we can't get both right now, and so she could have said, okay, well, let's go ahead and go with your plan. That was her opportunity, but she thinks that she did a good thing by what? Apologizing for the tantrum. So that's just my thought. So that's transitioning into, what if women would change? But we're going first, we always got to get the description of what that means, right? So what does change look like? What does change look like? And we'll center it around relationships so that we can be kind of poignant in getting to where we're going to get to for time's sake, right? And so as you gather your thoughts, I give you some think time. And for me, I always want to give everybody an opportunity to give their definition, right? And we'll lead into the dialogue, right? So we're going to start off with our guest of honor, Mr. Robert. What you got? What does change look like? And we can put it in relationship, marriage standpoint.
All right, so specifically speaking to relationship, change goes back to what my initial thought was: is what contributes to the greater good, what takes away from the greater good. And so it's being self-aware. Y'all can hear me still? Okay. It's about being self-aware and just being able to create a healthy balance between who you are and who you need to become in order for the relationship to thrive. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it simple. Who you are now and who you need to become to make the relationship thrive.
Hey, I didn't see you ask the question in the back. Did you wanted to add to something that I said previously?
Yeah, it's because, man, you said something, and I just love that you highlighted that basically the apology was unnecessary. And that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said that being that looked like to me that this ain't the first time they've gotten there. But the other thought is I just kind of want to normalize and standardize for men at large. Like we find ourselves in certain situations like paying for peace. You know what I mean? And so I told my lady one time, I even said on the podcast, I said, I get to do this. As it pertains to like taking care of us, I get to do it. I enjoy doing it. It's my blessing and my privilege. It's my reasonable service to do it. But while it's that, I don't think that it needs to be weaponized in a way where I have to pay for peace, because I want to have my peace. I want my peace to be uninterrupted. I want to share my peace, but I don't want you to impact my peace. And so part of that apology to me, because I go about what wasn't said, is, are we having a conversation of apologies because this ain't the first time you've interrupted his peace? You know what I mean? And I just want men to get to a place where they're not overtly doing things or compromising in spaces because for the sake of just keeping peace in the house unnecessarily. That's all. I didn't want to go back there. We've moved forward, but you just said some good things, and I was just thinking about the peace side of it.
No worries. Who you got going next?
Jamie.
I'm going to agree with Robert on what he said, because, change means to alter or to modify. So it would be me modifying myself or him modifying certain aspects of ourselves to make the relationship better. And so if one person is the only person doing that, of course, then resentment builds up and all of that good stuff that ends a relationship. So it has to be what makes this relationship better and what meets the vision that I have signed up for when I said I wanted to be with that man.
What meets the vision?
Right, because even in the dating phase, I need to know where we're going to go, right? And so if I keep on dating you, that means I agree with your vision. So that means if there's something wrong with me or something that doesn't bring an asset or isn't valuable to your mission, either I can modify it or I can step away and let somebody else that's better do that.
Okay, that's what's up. Who you got going next?
Lost.
Thank you. Humble Dad, you asked, what does change look like
Yes, sir. In a relationship.
in a relationship? I think an attitude of gratitude, man, is the baseline for any relationship, because that's the fuel that keeps the relationship going. You know, anybody can agree on where y'all going, but if you're not happy or glad to be there, you know what I'm saying, you're not happy to pitch in or something like that, or you just glad to be, you know, where you need to be and moving forward, then I don't need that type of energy, man. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those situations where sometimes people can just be along for the ride. But if you're there and you're excited and you want to pitch in and you got ideas, to me, that sends the relationship in a direction that gives it a little bit more fuel to move forward. So I think gratitude should be the baseline for any relationship. And we're gonna go with Dwayne.
Appreciate that, Lost. You know what? I will say I'll agree with y'all. Now, along with gratitude, I think that attitude plays a huge piece of that too. Because just like change, attitude and change can be for the positive and for the negative. So, just like what y'all said, as for changing is good if you're changing for the overall benefit of the overall relationship, not just for selfish desires. Leave it at that. Come on, Ash.
Short and simple. Snake skin. A snake gotta shed the skin. Like for me, okay, I'm gonna try to keep this short and simple. Like when you're changing, you know, you grow. And what snakes do? They grow. They go out and try to see what's going on in their habitat. You know, they got to make their pathways back home to make sure it's secure for them, not only when they're hunting, but also when they're coming back to their eggs, trying to protect their eggs, make sure predators ain't trying to snap them. So I'm going to say snakeskin because you got to shed. Come on, Prototype. Come on, get in here.
I like this question.
Let's get it. Welcome up.
I have so many examples of change. There's been so many different changes that's been made in my life and through whatever, man. What does change look like? Change looks like wearing baggy clothes and sagging and sitting in classrooms, slouching, sleeping and snoring in class. By the time you're a senior in college, now you're wearing a tie. You know what I'm saying? You're wearing a tie to class. You know what I mean? You're wearing a blazer. You're sitting at the front of the class. You're paying attention. You're taking notes. You know what I mean? That's a personal story. You know what I'm saying? My freshman year, just typical jock. And my teacher was like, "You're not going to make it." By the time it was my senior year, he was like, "Yo, I said you wasn't going to make it, but you've changed." And I did, in complete mindset and everything. You know what I mean? Changes when I met my wife saying, "I make a mean pork chop," to now she's like, "Ooh, we don't eat that." You know what I mean? "Ooh, that's nasty. Not in this house." You know, changes. We don't eat fast food. You know, eating Burger King on a regular basis. Her whole family eats Burger King, and we crack jokes on them about them eating Burger King. And I'm like, that used to be you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like changes. I am completely disgusted in the things I used to do. Changes. I became a believer and hanging, smoking, drinking, doing this, doing that, you know, fornicating, blah, 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 blah. Brother, ooh, what's that, brother? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what change is. So there's been so many different facets of change, and change looks like a complete, like, I don't see this in you anymore. Like when you tell people, "Oh, I was once this way." When I tell people I was a special ed student and ADHD and did like Western Psych. I don't know if y'all know what Western Psych, but mental health hospitals. And I went to a whole special ed school. Nobody has a clue. They look at me like, "What? You rode the short bus?" Yes, I rode the short bus from kindergarten to 12th grade. You know what I'm saying? So, but you just don't show it. Like they look at me and don't see it. You know what I mean? Because I'm an engineer now. And that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So that's what change looks like when you just made it complete whatever, and you can't even tell what that used to be, you know what I'm saying, to what you are now. So
that's what's up, bro. You coming in hot. Listen, that's for real. Going from, you know, from the, I guess, from the bottom to the top, if you will, you can look at it like that, right? You're talking about changing from as a Christian, Like when you hit that point, I think I distinctly remember, and Ash can too. When I was working as her boss, oh, bruh, you couldn't recognize Christ at all on me. You know what I'm saying? Like it was bad. Like I would fire people on a regular basis and just be cool with it. Like I didn't care. You know, I didn't think anything of them, what was happening in the background if they lost their job or whatnot. But once I found out about Christ, though, like my compassion level changed. You know, I began to talk to people from a perspective of what does it look like if you didn't have this job? What would it look like if you stopped listening to that music? What would it look like if you were, and myself, if you understood and started reading the Bible? What would that look like, right? And that's that change. That's the 180 that I think you was looking for, a prototype. It's a direct change where you don't even really recognize, or people don't even recognize who you are anymore. So much so it's so hard for them to be like, oh, that's the new person, right? That's dope. So that's what change looks like. Change looks like you are a new creature, right? You're a new person. And that's even in regards to relationship. And if you're not willing to change, that's another story, right? But we're going to talk about the change, and more specifically, what if women would change? I just want you to tell me, we'll start off on a positive note. Just give me one thing that women do not need to change. What is one thing that women do not need to change? Because I think it's important for people to hear the positives along with, as we call it, the constructive criticism, right? So as you think a moment, that's your moment. All right, cool. We're gonna go with Dwayne. What's one thing women do not need to change?
They do not need to change their operation, meaning operating outside of their femininity. They do not need to be masculine. They do not need to be strong in that sense of that masculinity. I think that's where toxic masculinity can be appropriated to whenever women operate outside their femininity. All right. Do I take somebody or we keep on?
Yeah, you take somebody. Yeah.
Robert, what you got?
The issue to yeah, I was about to start.
Fast on the mute button.
I'm still on mute. Oh.
Robert, I think you got a loose mic cable or something, brother.
We'll come back.
Brother,
Okay.
What's that, brother?
Is it me or is it him?
He got a loose mic cable.
Is it still off?
No, you good, brother. Oh no.
Robert, can't hear you.
Can't hear
Static
you.
major.
Ash.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ash.
I ain't got nothing for this one. Don't need to change. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm lost on this one because one
thing well.
Yeah, whatever. Call me whatever. Y'all know I'm not a feminist.
That's your stance. I can't.
Oh, there it is. Okay. There it go. Women don't need to change. I guess you can say they stance. I don't know because I'm really lost because I really can't put it into words because I can think of 1,001 things to change.
I know that's why.
See, you know you wrong, right? You know what?
We'll come back to you then. We'll come back.
Go Jamie.
Well, we're gonna come, Robert. See if you can.
Am I back now, y'all? Am I back?
Yes, you're good, bro. Go
Not
ahead.
bad, y'all. Troubleshooting, right? Yeah, I love what you said, Dwayne. I love what you didn't say, Ash. It's all good. We're gonna come back to you. No, like in a different perspective, though, I don't want women to change their anatomy because you provide balance. There was a particular part of you that was created to join with me that allowed us to, be fruitful and multiply, but also have our spaces. I like how I threw that in there, right? And it allows us to have our space, our position in the relationship. You know, yeah, I'm gonna keep it simple. Don't change your anatomy because I need you. If I could say it that way.
Oh yeah, you got it. Who you got next?
Prototype. Let's go.
It's a tricky one because they need to change everything. Like the thing about it is like if they're feminine, right? And they don't need to change it, but if they're masculine, I don't. They need to change a lot. You know what I'm
We're
saying?
not on that question.
But
The question that we on is what's the one thing women do not?
There is no.
You got to give me one, bro.
I don't have one because they need to change.
See, that's exactly why I shouldn't have let Ash use that answer.
I know. I was saying I agree with Ash. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they need to change, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like,
okay, who you got next,
I was
man?
not using that as a cop out. I was using that as saying that at my forefront of my brain, all of my personalities are in agreement that we cannot specifically say what women do not need to change because depending on the type of woman, certain things do need to change. So therefore, I cannot say I cannot say with good faith without misleading someone that something do not need to be changed. Because as I said, there's some things about myself that I even need to change and work on. So therefore, I'm going to fall back and wait for my opportunity to shine with the parts that need to be
there's
changed.
nothing that they don't. Well, I mean, I think
Don't-
give me a sec. Pull one out the hat with the anatomy thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like that's like, hey, that's smart, brother. That's smart. Like, 'cause I can't think of nothing else.
This is crazy.
You know
Listen,
what
I
I mean?
did
Like,
not think that this.
they don't need to change. They don't need to change. Cut
That's
off.
all I could think of, man. I ain't gonna lie
You know
to you.
what I'm
That's
saying?
all I could
They be
think of.
cutting off stuff, and you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. They need to change.
Come on, Ash. Oh, so not Ash. Come on. Who you got? Who you got going next? Lost in Translation or Jamie Proto?
Let's go with Lost.
You know what? I've thought about it, humble dad, and the thing that I can think of is I don't want women to change not caring. You know what I'm saying? There's something about a woman that's magical, man, when they really care. You know what I mean? If you can change anything else, don't change the fact that you care, whether it's for your own benefit or for the benefit of your family. Nobody cares more than a woman. You know what I'm saying? Because they put their money where their mouth is, you know, especially when they want to see things done. So I would say that I would really not like to see women change that they care. And I'm going to go with Jamie.
And I would, well, I was going to say what Law said, but I was going to say nurturing. So like, I would wish that women don't stop being a nurturing, especially Black women. But I have to say that it took me a long time to get to that point, and I was going to be on the same level as Ash. What is it that women don't need to change? Because if you want me to be honest, we've been selfish since
We're
like
not
in
there
the
yet.
beginning.
We are not there yet. Y'all would have that opportunity. I want to stay on the one point of
Oh, okay. All right. So stay nurturing. But the Bible says that we need to be taught to be nurturing too, though. So I just want to make sure that that's put into context because it's not natural.
Where?
It's not natural
Can you tell me where that is in the word?
Titus 2:4-8. It says that the women in the church are supposed to tell.
What you mean? Who reads
how
Titus?
to be nurturing and how to love their children. So it's not. It has to be taught. It's a taught thing.
You said Titus 2 and 4.
Yeah.
I'm about to get that tattoo.
Definitely a Bible scholar.
Nobody reads Titus.
She had that one on tap, but I knew exactly where she was going with that one.
People do read Titus, bro.
Mainly because I forget it's in there. Titus 2 and 4.
Mainly because it's one of the shortest books to read.
Right. It's
but
like
it's
2 pages.
So people be reading it, talking about they had their morning reading. Listen. It's okay, but Titus is a good book, bro. You take a moment to read that bad boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it
for sure. Okay, so I would say, you know, what they I would say what is one thing women do not need to change? I would say the sundresses. You know what I'm saying? So I thought, because y'all going with these other things, but the sundresses, they do something real fly for young ladies. You know what I'm saying? We can admire you without having to admire you more than that. Like it allows us to see how beautiful you are, right? And it allows us to be like, okay, that sundress ain't gonna do it for you. Oh yeah, that's a good one right there. You feel me? So I would say don't change the sundresses. And I would say also the one thing that you shouldn't change that would come in handy is the ability to have your own mind, right? What I mean by that is that there are women that have like every woman has their own mind, but sometimes they're not using their own mind. But if you would use your own mind, I think that's the thing that you don't need to change. So I'll give you those two. So we're going to transition to this because this is what y'all been waiting for. What's one thing that women do need to change? What's one thing that women do need to change? And don't say everything. You got to give one.
I don't know. I'm running to it.
Go ahead, Ash.
Okay. Let's see. Dang it, I don't know how I want to word it. I would say they need to change their view. Lord, this is hard to say.
One word, Ash. Them. They need to change them.
Yeah. Hey, I just said it a while ago by
Them.
being very nice.
It's a complete sentence.
Nicely. I would say they need to change how they view the view on what they are in the world, meaning that they're more than just their bodies. They're more than just makeup and weave. Like, you're more than that. Like, change your view of yourself. Just learn to love yourself. Love what you are naked. And I'm not talking about with your clothes off. I'm talking about with your clothes on. No makeup, no hair done, no eyebrows, no lashes. Like, what do you look like? The basic you. Are you satisfied with that? Can you walk outside and go to the grocery store with just that? Dwayne, that's why you're mute. That's why you're mute. And yes, I can. But no, that would be my one thing that women definitely need to change is how you view yourself and how you love on yourself. Like your view of yourself is really what's out there, because if somebody can see you naked, they can only imagine what you would do when you go out with them. Like, the enhancement would just be to enhance. It's not like you're putting on a mask just to go outside. It's like, dang, you really find your own self beautiful because you don't have to hide. You're not hiding anything. You're showing the blemishes, the bumps, or whatever, because everybody breaks out a little now and then, especially me, because I don't stay away from tomatoes and chocolate. So, it just rest in your own beauty without the extra. And I'm going with Dwayne, the mute monster, since he over there shaking his head talking about no.
Ash. Man, all right. What is one thing women do need to change? That fairy tale mindset. Oh my goodness. They talk about snowflakes. I believe that fairy tale Disney happy ending mindset is toxic as all get out, because it sets up unrealistic expectations. Because the first moment things do not go as planned to that fairy tale, then guess what? They're like, hey, I'm out. So due to that fragile lack of intentionality in the sense of like commitment, man, hey, that's one thing I would say, because the world did a great job grooming them. Prototype, what you got?
I would say women need to change They're selfish mentalities. Um, I feel like men have a bigger vision for community, and women lack that vision to be a part of community. They only want what's for them. You know, men can use a woman in a certain way that benefits whatever, um, but they just lack the vision of overall um, productivity or moving forward in the Black women particularly. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like other cultures have more of a grip on why they're doing certain things, or maybe they don't. I don't know, but I know Black women definitely don't have a sense of a way to move forward. What's important for the community, and it involves the nuclear family. You know what I'm saying? So um, they need to change that, right? Like, I wish we could all come together and be one in mindset, and this is what we need to do for the the community. And I think Black men are on that, but women are definitely not on. Not all Black men. The Black men that are on that, I wish there was enough women for the Black men that are on that to make a difference. So
I see. Who you got?
let's go with. Give me a sec.
Man, I want to have a Sunday where I can reteach the ladies' ideology on he that findeth the wife findeth a good thing and obtain God's favor. Because they genuinely think that their favor, like they are the replication of favor in my life. When favor was already in my life, you just released and unlocked some time for me not to be as distracted so I can enjoy the favor that's around me. But somewhere along the lines, they listen to Michael Todd and they listen to, I'm throwing out a guy just as an example who talked about them being favored because he's preaching more inspiration instead of impartation. And so now we have guys like those guys that exegetically pull out of the text in a way that doesn't allow you to live in the realm of accountability that you should. So you have a false sense of presence, you have a false sense of accountability, and now you have a false definition of what you really bring in terms of value into a relationship or into a marriage. And it's almost like because you think that you're here, your presence is your job, when your presence is just access to you being able to do your job. Us being together, I just gave you a key card to the relationship. That's not your hall pass to just be yourself throughout the entirety of the relationship. Which goes back to the initial question, what does change look like? Because I think I said it in the chat, we come in self-interested, but then we become us interested. And somewhere along the lines, you thought when you came in a relationship because your favor, because you misheard the person that was preaching talk about it, you've now said, I don't have to do nothing but show up. And showing up is not enough in 2024. Bills cost, mortgage costs, rent costs. And even if I don't need you to pay for it, I do need you to have a certain level of support and appreciation for what it is that we do so that I don't get distracted from the favor you thought you was when you showed up. You got to get better than favor at some point. And I think that goes back to the accountability in terms of being in a relationship. We lost prototype. You said it before, false sense of accountability. Us as men, we were born into the world with responsibility and accountability. And I believe women, they choose it if they so desire. I'm not saying they're not accountable. I'm saying there's just a small population that decide to choose to be accountable. And accountability looks like not blaming your past for where you are now. It's identifying that there's an origin, a pathology to where you've gotten to, but it has everything to do with making different decisions, because I believe you come out looking like your family, but you die looking like your choices. And so there's a whole bunch of things that go with that. But I really, if I could, just to sum it up, I would reteach what he that findeth the wife findeth the good thing and obtain favor looks like.
That's a good word. That's a very good word. Sure. Because we talked about last week, please correct me who said it. It may have been Lost, where we talked about that women don't know what being a wife is, but they want a marriage. I think that was Lost. Who you got going next? Robert, who you got?
Lost, did you talk on this already?
Not yet.
Go ahead, brother. Hit him.
Home Dad, just to touch on that, I think that one of the things that women need to change is to learn how to be scholars, man, of their families. You know what I'm saying? It's like they go to school to learn all this other stuff.
I'm a PhD.
They go get their PhD, you know what I'm saying? And they learn everything about everything else, but they don't understand the context of their position in their families. You see what I'm saying? Think about it, man. As men, we have to be husbands, we have to be fathers. In certain cases, we have to be sons, we have to be uncles. We have to be providers. We have to balance all of this stuff. And I think sometimes women like to shed some of their responsibilities. Like they would rather be a mother than a wife. You see what I'm saying? And I think sometimes as men, we need to make sure that we prioritize women who want to be wives first. You see what I'm saying? Because the women who want to be wives first are the ones who are willing to roll up their sleeves. And I think that's one of the things that women need to get back to is rolling up their sleeves. Man, Humble Dad, I come from an era where women actually were actual helpmates. You see what I'm saying? They weren't afraid to stick their hands in the dirt to get things done. You see what I'm saying? They actually talked to their children. They encouraged their children. They encouraged their husbands. They were good and kind to people in the neighborhood, no matter where you saw them. They were graceful. You see what I'm saying? And I think one of the things that we have lost in that is the ability for women to be graceful and understand their position and role in the community and also in the family. So my thing is this: one of the things that women really need to change is they need to become scholars of their own homes. And I'm going to go with Dwayne.
Did we switch it up while I was gone? Let me see. No, yeah, I already went on this one.
Who else we have left? Jamie?
I didn't go, but you took mine's lost. Like I was gonna say that women need to stop thinking that because they have an education it puts them on the same level as being of a man, and that they need to realize that they still need a man. So that's just my answer, is that your education doesn't equal you being on the same level as a man. It will never do that. And I think when we get education, we get beside ourselves and we think that we can be you or do what you do, and that's not true. So that's my only thing. But Lost, you took it and then you made it a whole sermon, and so
who made it a sermon?
I got a little Baptist in me sometimes, man. So I apologize.
Can I interject slightly?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just read Titus 2, right? The whole chapter.
Good. The whole thing.
The whole thing. In common sense is not common, man. Like you have to teach everything to everybody. And I think we expect people to automatically know things. This is why people don't know. And it just blew my head up. Like, dang, we're expecting people to have common sense. We're expecting people to, we expect women to not act, like a prostitute or whatever, you know what I mean? But they listen to the music. I mean, they're teaching them how to be. Everybody's being taught. It's not just, you gotta teach. It's like even the AI, you have to teach the AI how to be AI, right? You have to train it. Everything needs trained. And if we all understood that and knew that about our partners, our kids, our people, you understand what I'm saying? We would all be much better or we all be more accountable in understanding the actual role we have as people to one another. You know what I mean? Instead of just expecting or leaving, let be, we have to mature, we have to nurture things, and we have to groom things, and we have to put things in the right perspective so it could be the way it's supposed to be. And if you don't, it's going to be wild. So when people don't interject, when people say, "Oh, that ain't me," when people say that ain't my business, then you're letting it be wild, and then you're getting mad at the wildness because it's not what you think it should be. But nobody's teaching nothing. Nobody wants to teach. Man, that's crazy, man.
Listen, when you say nobody, just know that there are many people that are teaching, right? That's if you think about it, that's what Kevin Samuels was doing. There was a lady on TED Talk that was talking about the red pill movement before Kevin Samuels got to it. What has happened is that the media at large, as well as certain churches, I won't say all of them, but certain churches are not teaching what it's like to be a wife, what it's like to be a husband. I would say it's more important to learn how to be a wife, because dudes already know that we got to take care of this woman and these kids. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like, they know that. Now, they may not know how to go about it, but they know that if they're in a marriage, that they have to take care of these people. However, women currently, to add on to what y'all saying, I don't know if y'all said this, but they need to understand that being a wife is not just being in the marriage. Being a wife means that, I think somebody already said it, that you are a scholar of the family. You know everything about everybody. One of the things that's dope about Kendra is that she knows and remembers what everybody in the house wanted. And my kids were like, before we got married, they was like, Dad, like she remembered that I like this anime. She watched the anime with them, even though she's not an anime fan, right? She converses currently with me about sports, even though that's not her thing, right? That's that point of talking about, okay, I see the family. Yes, and that's a part of me being a wife. It's not about the wedding. And that is what I believe that women need to change as well, is that don't look forward to the wedding, because that's only one day. And it's a stressful time to get to that one day, because there's so much planning that goes involved, and everybody wants it to be perfect. When there is no perfect wedding, there's no perfect union. You know what I'm saying? Other than Jesus, and even it's only Jesus, because the church is definitely not that, right? So I'm with you on that prototype. I'm glad you went to go read Titus 2. That's dope. Shout out to Jamie, you know what I'm saying, for even putting it on the stage. Everybody receives instruction. Deuteronomy, I think it's 4, talks about how we need to be teaching our sons and our daughters morning, noon, and night. So yes, all these things that we are and where we are have been learned or by osmosis, or it has been taught to us through what our parents have said and done. And so that's why I wanted to have the conversation. What if women would change? I know they want the men to change. Okay, cool. But what would it look like if women would change? This is one I would say. What would it look like? What would happen if in a relationship if women were submissive? What would happen in a relationship if women were submissive? Not saying that there are women that are submissive, but one of the fears that I keep hearing that women are saying, that I don't want to be submitted to a man. One lady, she was on the Fakazi or something like that podcast, and she was saying, I want a partner. I don't want no man telling me nothing, right? We're gonna talk about it together and we're gonna do it together. And however, she wants a masculine dude. You can't have both. Go ahead, Pro.
Shout out to Loss. He already know what I'm about to say. Women suffer from this cognitive dissonance. You know what I'm saying? Where they say one thing, but they really mean another. I think every woman's submissive. You know what I'm saying? I say it all the time. Yeah, y'all probably heard me say that. Every woman's submissive to the right man, to the right situation or whatever. If she's not submissive to you, then you're just not that guy. So it's not a what if a woman's submissive in a relationship. I think every woman is submissive. You just got to be the guy, right? And this is what I mean by the guy. You got to read Titus 2. You got to teach. You have to teach, you know what I'm saying? And not a lot of men want to do the work in what being a man or being a husband is. And it's to teach, to train, to mold. You know what I mean? It's to take dominion over all of that. And I think we just want these women to be, oh, you're just a woman. You're supposed to come into the role like my mama. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to come into the role like the women that I've seen. I've said once that I made this grand post on Facebook and was like, man, where's the women like my grandma? Right? And I'm going down the line. My grandma's this, that, blah, 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 blah. My grandma's amazing. And then my aunt chimed in like, hey, it's great that you have this love for your grandmother, but you got to understand this. When you met grandma, she was grandma. She wasn't always grandma. And that took time for her to become that. I still didn't understand what she was talking about. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't see women out here like my grandma. You know what I'm saying? So, but the women have to be taught. And I think that a lot of women want to be led. They all want to be led. You know what I mean? Like they want to. And then when they see you're weak, or they see you're a sucker for real, they be like, nah, I can't follow that. But men do not want to step into the role of teaching their women how to be their wives, teaching their women how to be their kids' mother, and that's what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? Unless you marry somebody like older or something, and she's been through a whole lot, but you only like her because another man taught her it. You know what I'm saying? You only like the features in a woman that another man taught her. So either you're going to teach her that, or you're going to wait for somebody else to do the work for you. Somebody got to do the work. And if the work never gets done, she will never grow. So,
Ooh, who you got going next?
Did
bro?
I just say he ain't
Go ahead,
lying?
Ash.
Can I just say he ain't lying? Because my ex recently tried to come back over here and he struck me off guard when he said, I think I want you now. I want you back now because you're seasoned. I said, you want what? Seasoned. So after I done went through all this trial and tribulation, now you want to come back home. Nah, door closed. I ain't finna do it. Nope. I ain't got no knot on my head. I can't forget. I ain't forgiving and I ain't forgetting. You was a learning stone, and we shall not rotate that stone in any way. We're gonna leave it buried. But what he's saying is correct because, like I said, all my relationships ain't bad. Some of them I left, mostly all of them I left. But but what
Women
he said is
always
true.
leave the relationship.
What? Huh?
It's rare that man breaks up with a woman.
Like I said, I left. What I say, 99.9% of the time I'm wrong. In that time, I ain't lying. I'm right. I left. I walked away. That's what I did. I said, what did Prototype just say? I don't like where this sucker is going. I ain't got to put up with this. I'm leaving. But what he's saying is correct because this way my ex looked at me and the look on his face was like, you done been through it. You know what to do now. You ready to become a wife. I'm like, not to you, homeboy, not today. But I do agree with Prototype. I guess this will be another rare occasions that I agree with that thing over there. I mean, Prototype over there. But he right to, and he right about being submissive because it takes the right kind of dude. Because there's certain way you want. Like he was saying, how his grandmother was the role model for the woman that he wanted around and stuff. That's the way we all look because there's somebody male, a male role model, grandfather, daddy, somebody, uncle that did something in the way that we like, and we kind of look for those characteristics to be submissive to. And I ain't gonna lie, I do because to me, my grandfather was and my dad, they do pretty much the same similar things. And when I look at it, it's like, yeah, hustle, whether it's fixing this, doing this, and they're also helpful. They're going outside their way to make sure you're good. Like if I'm stranded, hey, I gotta make a phone call. Hey, come get me this car messing up, or whatever the case may be. That's what you look for, that safety, that security. That's what we all look for. But at the same time, a woman won't submit if they don't feel that. Like I tell anybody, I've been in love, done felt it before. And it's not like I'm chasing that particular love because it's from that man, because I know if that goes with that man. Everybody don't love like that. But at the same time, every man has a way of making you feel like, okay, I can rest, I can submit. I hate the word, but I can rest in my femininity. Y'all know I don't get with that because you're a feminine woman, you just gonna be what she is. But at the same time, I do understand what Prototype's saying though. It's that man making you feel that way that you can rest at ease to know that, hey, you're the front runner, you got it. I can fall back and nurture everything else around and make sure we go ahead and move astray, lost in translation because he look like he building up over there.
I don't think women should rest in their femininity. I think they should work in their femininity. You know what I'm saying? Because think about it. Men don't rest in their masculinity. They work in their masculinity. Let me explain something to you, man. The question is, what would happen in a relationship if women were submissive? They would actually build more trust in their man. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Women inherently are a fearful creature because it takes a lot for them to get whatever it is they have to get. Either it's usually by hook or crook or by some other guy, or it took them how long it took them to get whatever they have to get. So they're going to be fearful about losing whatever it is that they have. But my thing is this: if you were more submissive to your man and allowed him to fail and get back up, you would actually build more trust in the relationship, because the more times you see your man get down and get back up, that would actually create a more stable relationship because he's not going to stay down. So my thing is this: in order for women to get over fear, they would have to continue to see their man conquer over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? And the killing part about it is the people who go to church the most are usually the ones who have the least amount of faith. In my mind, that it's hard for me to reconcile that. You know, it's always a situation where women are always fearful. Well, what if this happens? Or I can get a new guy. You know what I'm saying? And trade guys out or whatever for safety and security. That's not going to work. The reason why relationships work is because couples actually see each other fail and they're there for each other. That's the whole purpose. My grandfather told me a long time ago, this is like shortly after my daddy passed away, and we had the conversation. He was like, why do you think people get married? And I said, because they're in love. He was like, no, that's not it. He said, the reason why people get married is to have somebody there with you during the tough times, because they will be there. You see what I'm saying? Anybody can be there when the sun is shining, everybody's having a good time. But who's going to whisper to you and say, get up? Who's going to pull you up when the other person is down? You see what I'm saying? Those are the things that we need to work on. Don't shy away from failure. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from your failures. That's the only way you're gonna get better. You know, I've never seen anybody grow from not going through any type of struggle. I've never seen it. Nobody has ever gotten better by having smooth seas. I think it was a quote that says, no sailor has ever been skilled by smooth seas. You see what I'm saying? You don't learn anything by having a smooth path. You know what I'm saying? Or no rough seas. The most skilled sailors are always the ones who know how to navigate the rough seas. And I think that's one of the things that women need to change. If they're more submissive, they will go through more things and it would actually build more faith. I'm gonna go with Robert, man.
Try your luck, Robert.
I can't follow that, man. I can't follow that.
I'm sure you'll try though. Let's get it. What you got?
So, you know, I guess the question was, what if women were more submissive? I guess what I hear when you ask that question is, you know, what if they actually had a prayer life? What if they had? What if they didn't come to every relation out of their survival and their trauma? What if they came to the relationship without, you know, blaming their past or other men or other, you know, their fathers and stuff like that? And I'm not saying that those things don't happen, because they do. And I'm empathetic to it. You know, there's elements of trauma that everybody goes through. But I think at some point, you know, when you're mature enough or you're accountable enough to deal with it, it leaves you in spaces where you're not as guarded. So that element of submissiveness to the right man is used properly. And so, you know, when you have the right prayer life, you know when to say yes and when to say no, when to challenge and when not to challenge, for the sake of going back to what I said, knowing that my thoughts are valuable, but they're not always relevant. And so relationship, you know, and prayer tells you how to handle things. It tells you how to have a soft tongue to turn away wrath. It tells you how to trust, you know, the person that you're with, as Lost Translation said, you know, to get it right and wrong. Just be with me during the process. And then just kind of support what that looks like. And so when you're saying, hey, what would really happen in a relationship if women were submissive, we would now be able to unlock that thing called favor, because you've omitted my distractions. You provided the peace in the home that allows me to think clearly. You've provided purpose for why it is that I do what I do. I said earlier that, you know, I get to do this. I want to do this. I'm called to do this, but I can't have you distracting me from what I'm called to do. So part of your submissiveness is trusting the process. I told my old lady before, I didn't ask you to marry me because I was looking to appease you. I asked you to marry me so that you could trust the process that I was putting before you. I was trying to give you an expected end. I was trying to let you know what this is going to look like. I was trying to provide vision and clarity and strategy. When we first got together, she was trying to get me to propose to her early on in the relationship. And I told her, you can't take a 2-month relationship and act like we've been together for a year because we're happy. You haven't trusted the process. So submissiveness allows you to understand that I have vision for this. I have strategy for this. And that you're able to trust what that looks like. And then you move to the beat of our drum, not the beat of your own agenda. That's what I got. Dwayne, what you got, man?
Who you going with? You got Dwayne? Go ahead.
Yeah. Ashley, I like what you said. But then Loss came in and he was like, nope, give me that. No rest. You get no rest. But I must still have to go back to it. Rest. Whenever a wife operates in that mindset of submission and submissiveness, you get rest. The opposite of that is contention. And if you had that in your house, you know what Proverbs say about it. But then I also then see that Jesus said, my yoke is easy, right? So some women I've heard say, I would submit, but you're not doing X, Y, Z. That opens the door for the man to say, I would love you, but you're not doing X, Y, Z. So in that, both parties now has to then cast that labor unto the Lord and then receive his rest. So the man gets to operate in his masculinity and the woman gets to operate in his in her femininity, and both of that creates that rest, because ain't nothing like both of y'all coming home or when y'all come home and receiving work. Relationship is work as it is with anybody. But imagine coming home and being miserable, right? You don't have that rest. All you have is contention. That leads to a hell of a life. So for a woman to be submissive, that right there opens the door for rest. And again, that's no discredit or to what you were saying, Lost. It is work, but there is work that does not have to be that much more difficult. I'll use what Lost says. Let me give you an example. If you have a manager, right, that is a pain in the ass, it's no longer about the work. Now it's about the person. The work is what it is. But then if you have a manager that makes that work that much more difficult, your life is going to be much more miserable. But if you have a manager that's able to be attentive to what's going on and be able to then ease your load and distribute, that makes it a world of a difference, right? So that goes to the same thing in your home. Back to what your prototype said about the CEO. Like whenever you have a situation, right, where the people around you are just making things much more easy for, like it's work, right? Let's not get it twisted. It's work. But then the people around you that make it easier, that's what makes the difference.
Ooh, listen, man. Did everybody go? Is there anyone that didn't go?
I don't think I went.
Let's go, Jamie.
So I want to say that, everybody's answer was phenomenal, because Prototype started off with teach, right? He said, let's do what Titus said, let's teach. And then Lost came in and said, okay, we have to understand that failure, the agitation of failure, produces growth, and that the women need to submit to the ability to let their man fail and speak life back in him so he can grow. And then Robert came through and he said, if you have a better prayer life, right? If you submit and trust in your prayer life, he will be able to grow during his failure. I just want to see how I want you guys to see how you did that. And then Dwayne came through and said, you have to trust and rest, right? And so what God asked us to do is to trust and rest in the Lord, right? And so you guys literally just show what it looks like for a woman to be submissive to her husband as Christ loves the church. You just literally spoke all of that by different segments. And I think that where we fail at is we don't know how to develop a healthy relationship with Christ. Because if we did, when we stepped into relationships, we would understand that that's a process. But because we try to control our relationship with Christ, we try to control our relationship with people. And that's not how this works.
I love what you said. You put that you put that, you just made that mac and cheese. You took the cheese and the milk and the flour and the noodles. You just put that thing in the oven, what you just did. My only caveat is I don't understand how people control their relationships with Christ. I've never understood when people say that or try. I've never understood that, because it is what it is, right?
Let me break it down. It's your lack of intimacy. You don't read. You don't pray and trust. You always have a plan B, a plan A, a plan C So you're always being your own God. And then you don't know the will of your life like Christ has for you. You've developed what you think your will is. You haven't really submitted yourself in prayer and asked him, is this what you want me to do? So we come in and we say, hey, God, you said that if I want the desire, you will give me the desires of my heart if I choose to follow you. But that's not the case. He said, you have to know my mind, my will for you. And so that's how I say we try to control it. We think that God is a magic genie. We just go to prayer, and when he don't deliver, we get upset and say God didn't deliver what he said he would do for me. That's not what he said. He didn't say that. That's what you wanted. You never asked him.
So
You're spot on. You're spot on. Go ahead, Prototype.
I don't think she. I understand. So I agree with you. I don't think it's a magic genie, and I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think your life with Christ is that complicated, right? And the reason I say that is because when God asked anybody to do anything spectacular, what were they doing? They were chilling. They were working. They had a family. They were doing a very basic roundabout life. They had a family, work, and they just did it. And then eventually God come tap them on the shoulder like, hey, I need you to do something. You know what I'm saying? So to be in that mode, all you got to do is, hey, your family, do the basic stuff, and just them basics is what God wants you to do. It's nothing more or nothing less. It's not a grand purpose or anything, because he might not have a grand purpose. The grand purpose is the very basic stuff.
You're missing a segment. Even though they were doing nothing when he called them, he still called them away from their people, and he took them away for a minute. You have to think about that. Everybody had a consecration process, so you have to have time with the Lord. When he met Paul or Saul on Damascus, and he blinded him 3 days, but he went away for 3 years to get the word, and the mind changed. When he took the Israelites out of Egypt, he made them wander for 40 years because they could not get Egypt out of their mind. You have to be able to have a renewed mind in Christ.
He made them wander. You said it, but it's if they would have got it sooner, then they would have entered. It wouldn't have been 40 years. They would have entered a lot quicker. But it was their own whatever that kept them.
That's the whole point of what she's saying, though, right, Proto? That you're trying to control your relationship with God, because you said it's that easy. If you do what he says, then you're good. But the thing about us as people, Israelites or Gentiles or whatever, whoever it is, right? Just kind of like you talk about the CEO position. The CEO position, my rules are what goes. But if the subordinate decides, oh, no, I don't like what it is that you're doing,
get out of here.
I'm either going to go or I'm going to make it very challenging to be here so that you make me exit. That's them trying to control the relationship between you and them, right? So that's why it's important to teach, right? If you're teaching people what it looks like to follow Christ, you're telling them, one is that you got to read your Bible, but you're also showing them. But it's up to them to decide if that's what they're going to do, because that means that they're deciding on building their relationship with Christ. Because Christ does not say you got to be in a relationship with me. He gives us a free will to do that. And so what relationship looks like if I'm trying to say, if I'm controlling it in that manner, is that, okay, do I get up and read my Bible? Do I begin to study the Bible? Then when I'm in the Bible, am I asking for clarification in the scripture? Am I then going and recite? And then am I using the words in which I study? Am I going to apply that to individuals that I come in contact with? Am I teaching my children? Am I loving my wife in that regard? Am I doing what the Bible says that it says for me to do? Or do I decide to do what I feel like would be right in this moment? There are certain people out there that believe that, and I was, what show was I watching? It was a podcast that I was watching. I can't remember, but it was saying that, do you believe, it was Just Wit and Kev on Stage. They had an interview today or sometime, and they was talking about, is it challenging to not have sex after you've had it and now you're trying to pursue Christ, right? And so, and he's saying, that there are people currently believing that having sex is not a sin. Okay, there are people that believe that, and they're Christians. They call themselves Christian. They saying that sex outside of marriage is not a sin. So that would be them saying, this is how I want our relationship to be, God. They're deciding based upon their own ideology how they're going to live for Christ. So that's what that means. Does that help? You may still disagree, but that's the
No, I'm not disagreeing. I mean, I see your point.
For sure. Anybody
He's got a fever. He's got a fever.
You gotta have more faith in me.
I got faith in you all the time.
You still may disagree.
He's got a
But
fever.
I don't want to discredit.
You heard that point.
I don't want to discredit how Jamie made that mac and cheese, though. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
To teach, to do the work
Yeah.
is basically what Law said, right? Do the work, to pray. You know what I'm saying? And then have trust in that it's going to happen. So, yo, if that's not the answer, that's it right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Robert
had some. I think Robert had something. Then we can come to you, Lost, and then if Dwayne has.
Oh, yeah. I was just gonna say I loved your perspective, about trying to control that prayer life, because we focus on the shout and the dance of the scripture. You're the head and not the tail. You're above and not beneath. You're the lender, not the borrower, right? But there's a process for all of that. And I think that we omit the process. And I always like to encourage people all the time that the biggest enemy to your increase is lack of patience. Anytime you're impatient, you're bound to suffer in the areas of your increase. And so control, right? And it goes back to what I was even saying regarding my relationship, an element of control. And one of the things she said is, I feel like I need to control our now because of what I've seen before now. You know what I mean? And so you're letting your past kind of cover or lead your future. You know what I mean? Instead of kind of figuring out what that looks like. And so I just love that so much, because I don't think we realize how much a lack of prayer life causes us to control our future life. You know what I mean? And then we give God, and watch what I'm saying now. Don't misquote me, Prototype, because you're gonna come out here and try to get me. But we give God too much credit, because this is the key. God doesn't cause everything, but he uses everything. And so he uses our good choices and our bad choices. We have free will. And so we're talking about, if I do this, if, stupid stuff, let me just say it like that. Stupid stuff, like when we say when praises go up, blessings come down. That ain't Bible at all. It's not even close to Bible. You know what I mean? But we've heard things on the 8th row of the church as kids growing up, and then we were dismissed to youth church, and then we've made that our ideology. And then when that doesn't happen, we try to control everything around us so that we, in a sense, become our own God to a certain degree. And then we start walking around saying things like, I made that happen. I did that. I did this. And then you wonder why everything around you is crumbling. I believe when you don't have a prayer life, it's connected to you being careless. And then when you're careless, you wonder why everybody around you handles you like you're careless. You wonder why people around you don't respect your boundaries. You wonder why you've had to encounter men that only used you for your body and never put, speed behind your brain. It's because you operated in a careless space. But I believe it goes back again to that lack of prayer life. And I think prayer life is the only thing that can heal the broken heart. Is the only thing that will allow you to, to really reconcile the things that our natural mind can't. You know what I mean? And the last thing I'll share is, because we talk oftentimes about, forgiveness, right? And it's always like, okay, you did a thing, so I forgive you. But part of forgiveness is, or I believe a bigger part of forgiveness is forgiving yourself for even being exposed to what that looks like. And when you forgive yourself, it's because you've had a conversation, not only with self, but you've had a conversation with God that said, God, free me from this mindset, free me from this tribulation, free me from this setback, free me from my desire to keep attracting the same thing I keep getting, so I can stop breaking my own heart. That has everything to do with a prayer life. And it has everything to do with literally releasing and relinquishing the control that you want to have over yourself and saying, God, not my will, but your will be done. That's it.
Hey, before you get to tack on to that before Lost goes, what's going on is that your faith is connected to your obedience, right? And your relationship with Christ and your prayer life. They are intertwined with one another. So the reason why someone wouldn't pray which is really you just talking to God, even with your eyes open, if so need be. You're having a conversation with your heavenly Father, letting him know what's on your heart, right? And so if you are in your word, then you're able to, what Jesus did and many of the other followers of Christ did, was to regurgitate what it is that he said in his scripture that he would do for you, right? So when he says that I'm more than a conqueror, well, why was he saying that? Because in the circumstance that I'm facing, like, I cannot do this on my own, so I need you. What Paul said when I'm weak, he's strong. If you go, I think people definitely need to read James 1, and that'll tap out all the prosperity gospel, right? Because James 1 tells you like this, right? He says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And then let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and will be given to you. And then it goes on and furthermore, right? So what I'm saying is, when we're talking about this prayer and being dedicated to your prayer life, you don't want to just say, God, can you give me? Can you give me? Because he's not a genie in that regard. He is the person that you can go and talk to about whatever it is that's on your heart. But once you're reading the word, you're communicating back to him, saying, you remember you told me that I should consider it pure joy when I face these trials. Like, I need you to be that for me right now. Right. So it's that type of communication, but that's based on the faith that you have in God. No different than when you have a relationship with your friends. The reason why you confide in certain friends versus others is because of what type of faith you have in them and what they're going to reciprocate out. Give you a case, and I transition to you, Lost. I was conversing with Dwayne, and Dwayne is a man of many talents. One of the things that he does really well is he can build a house, right? Okay. For the most part, for sure. Listen, stop laughing. That's what you're doing right now. You're reconstructing your house right now, right? Oh, he probably laughing because he know where this is going, right? And so I said, he was talking about, the friends that he has, and he wanted a certain type of friends. And I was like, bro, I'm your friend. He said, but you can't build nothing. So why would I call you to build something? You already got your lane, your pocket of why I call you. And I was like, dang, that's true. but I understood in that moment that was not the friend that he needed. He did not have faith in my ability to help him build nothing in his house, right? He has faith in me to do something else because of the relationship that we have been able to transition and also build upon another. It's the same thing with God. How your relationship determines your relationship determines your faith, and your faith determines your relationship, which communicates in all how you pray and how you communicate with God. Go ahead, Trent. Lost in translation.
Thank you. Humble Dad, I'm glad you said that, because that hit the nail on the head. Sometimes when we talk to God, it's a monologue, and God really wants a dialogue. You see what I'm saying? And I'll give you an example. He wants us to give him back what he taught us. And I'm going to wrap this thing back up. I'm going to double back what we had just to show you how this thing ties back into it. The first example that we talked about was where the lady wanted to have her way. Okay. And all of a sudden she stormed off. But what she did was she repented and came back and said, you know what? I apologize. And sometimes God just wants us to repent. He wants you to have the desires of your heart. You see what I'm saying? But we have to repent. Now, my thing is, the Bible says is if you make one step toward me, I'll make two toward you. And I think that the husband understood that in that particular moment in time, because he really probably didn't need what it was. He just wanted to make sure that I saw what you did. And I appreciate that. And sometimes it don't always work out that way. But my thing is that if this is going to be the mother of my children, and I'm charged to train her to make sure that honesty is way more important than material things. Even Acts 3:6, when Peter says, silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have, I give you in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Walk. And I think sometimes in our walk, we forget to walk. We do a whole lot of talking. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to make sure that we enact those things that we say we're going to do. Sometimes we have to give grace because that's what God would do. If we're supposed to be the representation of God on earth and our wife is supposed to be the church, those are the things that we have to make sure that we emulate. You see what I'm saying? The church may not always do what it's supposed to do, but you best believe God gonna do what he have to do. You see what I'm saying? He may not come when you want him, but he's gonna be there right on time. But my whole thing is this: I just want us to get to the point where we're actually doing what he says do, instead of actually just giving lip service to it. It's hard walking that walk. It's hard giving people grace, especially when you know they ain't right. You see what I'm saying? But my thing is this: whenever you teach people how to do that, then they'll be able to trust you and to help you along the way. And it helps you become a better leader. It gives you more patience. It actually allows you to tie back into God. He'll pour into you because he was like, oh, I trust you because you're listening to me. I'll give you a little bit more. And from that, that's how you build your relationships. That's how you build your trust. And from then on out, once you do that, your relationships will be better. People will trust you more. And you'll actually give them examples of where you got it from and how you used it in that particular situation. So it may not always look the way you wanted to, but my thing is this: you want to make sure that you live the way you say you're gonna live. Walk by faith and not by sight.
That's what's up. Hey, on you, Dwayne. You take it, bro.
Man, all right. So faith, I love that y'all were talking about that, because what I was thinking about was good old Peter, right? Man, I won't deny you. I won't deny you.
I'm a straight rider.
Come on now. Yeah, come on now. Start throwing up them signs. But I look at that, and I was thinking about that earlier too, right? Whenever, he called him to come out onto the waters, and he was able to go, but then he sank after he looked away. And that's how it is in relationships. Whenever we lose focus on God, and then we start to sink, and that's from a relationship standpoint. But I also then talk what you're saying, Lost, about the giving of the grace, right? Jesus already knew Peter was going to deny him, right? And he was the most stoic one, right? Like, get out the way. No, like, hey, I won't do. And he's like, man, come on now, chill out. I know you. I know your heart. But then in it, he used that stumbling of Peter to make something great out of it. Not for Peter's glory, but for his own glory. So I think there are times in our lives when we recognize that we literally we put our foot in our mouths. Like we totally like shoot ourselves in the foot. Like we do everything maladaptive behavior. We do everything that's completely in opposition to what's in our best interest. So like God was leading the Israelites out of slavery, right? And they complained about food, about water, about wasn't there enough graves? That's one of my favorite questions. Wasn't there enough graves in Egypt? Why'd you have to take us all the way out here? Because guess what? You might not see it now, but God has a bigger plan for you, right? But in that, we can't see it. So that's where, as for that faith, but sometimes we do lose sight, right? And as for people, having grace for each other in those moments whenever we do lack that faith, because we're only humans, right? So how is it whenever we come alongside each other and give each other some encouragement and lift each other up? So to that lady, like a prototype, I'm sorry, like what Lost was saying, going back to her, I find so much relief in the fact that she was able to recognize that she messed up and was able to then go back and be like, hey, you know what? I need to go and apologize. That shows strength. That shows humility. And I that's what I'm taking it as. Whether she abuses it, it's meant to be abused. I'm sorry to put it like that. But if it's like 7 times, 70 times or whatever, like my GED can't add up that many numbers, but I know it's a lot. And to be real though, like and especially as men, 3 strikes, right? 3 strikes is a far departure from 70 times, 7 times, whatever. So in that, I'm leaving on that. We got to show grace and mercy and humility to each other.
Just so y'all know, y'all got off topic, but it's okay because we kind
I don't care.
the question was about women being submissive.
I don't care. That's us. That's all of us being submissive to God.
I was not submissive to the question for sure. That's
You were out of order.
out
You
of
are out of
it makes
order.
sense, though.
Well played.
God's plan is God's plan. He wanted us to talk about God tonight.
That's a fact.
Come on.
It
Thank
was
you for the
Out of
time.
order.
conversation, just not the question. Okay.
Lost
yeah.
in Translation even tried to set the mood with talk music, and we still,
It's okay. It was good. Like it was really good though. I
Oh, yeah.
learned a lot right there for sure. The one thing that as we get out of it, I put the where that people can follow y'all at in the chat. So hopefully they do that because I know we got time to get out of here. My kids got a STAR test and I gotta administrate some STAR tests as well. But nevertheless, the one thing that if women were submissive, they could get a lot more of what they wanted. I mean, you think about it from the biblical perspective. He says that, my yoke is easy, my burden light, cast your cares upon me. He says these things so that we will know.
Oh man.
Always be grieving to some degree. The one thing that I held on to is that he said he would never leave me nor forsake me. He will always comfort me. And he did that. If I did not submit myself to who I know who God is, then I couldn't have been able to manage the pain that I was going through to be able to be a good father for my kids. And Dwayne been there with me, since the day I knew Dwayne the day after my late wife passed away, and he's been rocking with me ever since then. And so he has gotten to see firsthand of how I rock with Christ. You know what I'm saying? And so as a result of it, he's also allowed me to meet y'all, right? And to be able to bring you all together to tell the people what it looks like to be different than what people think you should be. There are several people that I come in contact with that are surprised that I'm not what they thought I should be. You know what I'm saying? Similar to what Prototype was saying. So I want to say thank you to you all because y'all make this worth coming to on a regular basis. And we just gonna do what we do and make sure that everybody knows that we got the best show on the planet. You feel me? We are at 1,059. That's what I want to say. So we got 9 in the last week. Last week's show did better than the 3 previous shows that we've done. So every view counts for me, and every time y'all get on the stage, I'm ready to learn. Without anything else to be said, I appreciate y'all. Until next time, we out here. Deuces.
The boy is dangerous.
Bad feeling about this.
You don't seem to understand something.
The thing that I like most about being a dad is that I see that I'm about to impact the world.